Well, good morning, everyone. This is Joseph from Adjuvant Protocols for Healing, and I'd like to welcome you all this morning on the Mountain and Pacific time zone, and good afternoon to all of you in Central and Eastern time zone. As you know, I teach these webinars twice a month on the first and third Thursday of every month. And it focuses on my new book, which actually I shouldn't say new anymore. It came out last August. And so if you have this book, you can there's a section in there where you can make notes. And as I lecture, and of course, as I was just saying to this practitioner before we began, my purpose for doing this is to pass on what I have learned through not just conceptually of what Dr. Lee and the other great nutritionists of our time said, but what my actual experience has been, what my life experience has been as a healer, as a clinician. And I also try to teach what others don't teach, which obviously a lot of what we all teach in the standard process and Mediherb genre of educators overlaps. But the important thing is to bring in our own uniqueness, all of us as teachers. And so today, just mute everybody out here. Now, Lynn is putting the notes in the chat box. And if for any reason you're having difficulty, do not be concerned. Sit back, relax, take some notes. We will get the notes to you. You can email me, you can email Lynn. We'll get the notes and the recording to you. Or you can go on my YouTube channel here, or just type in youtube.com, Joseph Antel, and it will take you to my lectures. We've loaded about 15 of them. I think there's another 5 to go somewhere, unless we didn't record the earlier ones. So today I wanted to welcome the Colorado Springs group, and my great thanks to Lynn Mayer for helping me put together this PowerPoint, which is a labor of love, really. Takes a lot to get these together, especially to work with with someone like me that keeps changing things every 5 seconds. So thank you, Lynn, for that, and welcome to the Colorado Springs group, which is a great network of healers down there that I have lectured to, and Lynn has lectured to for many years now. So this today is part of a series that I'm doing, which is on my YouTube channel, on the endocrine system. Today focuses on the pancreas, the importance of balanced pancreas function for well-being. And you can go through all of the others, the pineal, pituitary, thyroid, thymus, and now pancreas. So we have, after this, we'll have of course, the adrenals and the gonads after this. So remember that my own personal philosophy and my own approach through next year will be 50 years of learning and teaching and applying these principles, that I know and I believe, which some may or may not agree with, but every endocrine gland in the human body has an energetic field. Actually, every gland, every organ, and other glands that are not endocrine glands in the body have an energetic field. There is a meaning behind it as to what it does in our life, in our health, in our expression. And that energetic field has a resonance. It has a frequency. And when these frequencies, through different imbalances, come to these glands, then we have issues in life. But there is a certain focus of energy and understanding related to each gland as I see it. You may have other experiences with it, so that's fine too. But I'm expressing my the lineage that I have with these, particularly these 7 endocrine glands. And as Dr. Lee said, this is the key. This is the foundation to all life function throughout the human body. You cannot have a normal life if any of these endocrine glands are off. This is the communication system of everything else: organs, glands, tissues. The endocrine system, the 7 ductless glands. And if they are malnourished, now in my other lectures I gave you, which I didn't put in this one because I don't want to repeat the same notes every time, an article from a newspaper in Wisconsin that Dr. Lee, they recorded his overview of the endocrine system and how it works and what it does and what it needs. You should go back and read that. I didn't put it in this one, as I say today. So we're going to look at the pancreas, as I say, and remember that the pancreas has 2 parts. It is an endocrine, has an endocrine portion, and hold on one second. I just need to get back to something here. And which produces primarily glucagon and insulin. And I'll go into this in detail. And it is an exocrine gland. So these hormonal islets or islands, by the way, there's 1 million of them in the pancreas, they estimate. Just think of the marvel of the body. And where do they live? Do they live in the head of the pancreas, the tail of the pancreas? No, they are throughout the pancreas, which I'll show you that as well. So I'm just trying to get back to, okay. The other hormone that I wanted to mention in the pancreas that is not primary but is there is somatostatin, I'm sorry. It produces predominantly neuroendocrine inhibitory effects across multiple systems. So the pancreas affects not just what we know of, it affects multiple systems throughout the body unknowingly to most of us. And it is this other hormone, which is not a predominant hormone, that does this. It is known to inhibit GI, endocrine, exocrine, pancreatic, and pituitary secretions, as well as modify neurotransmission and memory formation in the central nervous system. So even though I did not put this here as a primary, no, and in the notes it talks about this hormone, know that what is conveyed through the pancreas is truly remarkable, and it does a lot of things that we don't even realize or acknowledge. And the other, of course, is how we take the outer world in through food primarily. and break that down into living energy, into the life force within our bodies. And without the exocrine part of the pancreas, we would not live. You cannot live without a pancreas. You will die. Even with, you know, the recent of use of insulin, you can't live without a pancreas. And therefore, I describe, as I say, this energetic part, this resonant field of this organ has to primarily do with the quality of our life. If you know anyone that has a pancreas issue, their quality of life is somewhat limited. They're not totally free in their life, unfortunately. Diabetics, someone that has had, if you know, or had pancreatitis, if you've had parasites in your pancreas, if you've had cancer, if you've had anything that has damaged the pancreas, you spend the rest of your life managing that. So this, and we don't even think about our pancreas much, do we? Maybe if we eat too much sugar or overdo alcohol, we'll feel it on that left side of our body. You feel it aching or whatever, whatever it's doing, speaking back to us. We don't even notice, we don't even think about it. But this is a key endocrine gland for everything else, everything else. And that's why I call it the organ of blessing or the organ of trouble. Of the opposite of blessing is cursed. So I don't like to use the word cursed, but we're very challenged. And because this is the organ through which the blessing for the rest of the body manifests. And so because it helps to manage the life force throughout the body. And you will also notice, which I learned when I first started learning herbal technology and herbal science and herbal teachings that go back thousands of years. I've learned one thing about the pancreas through the herbal training, is that these are the individuals that the hereditary factors tend to be more upfront. They struggle with, I guess you could say, the sins of former father and mother, particularly the male. And the frailties of this organ comes through in the genetic weaknesses through the male. There's two that I learned, there may be more through the male, and that is people with lung problems, respiratory problems, and blood sugar issues, pancreas issues. Interesting, isn't it? Now, there's science behind this and research, but it is interesting as well. The other is that people with pancreatic issues tend to be more vulnerable to other invasions of other pathogens, particularly parasites. And so we'll get into that a little bit, and I'll have other comments. So, and the responsibility of each of us as individuals and as teachers, as healers, as those that assist anyone from our own bodies to our family, people closest to us, our loved ones, our partners, is to take responsibility for what we put into our body. Is it a blessing or is it troublesome, which could lead to a curse for the body? And that relates to every thought, every word we speak, and every deed, particularly what we take in from the outer world in food. Here's where it all focuses, is in the pancreas. Because the pancreas is what stokes the cellular fire. Now, the thyroid plays a part. You can listen to my thyroid lecture. The thyroid is what moves that energy. It's what metabolizes that energy. That's the next phase. But the origin of all energy through the body, from a physiological standpoint, rests here at the level of the pancreas. And so, and I guess just to finish my thought on taking responsibility, which we are all challenged with, and we're all challenged with teaching our children and our clients and talking to ourselves, is that my approach has always been, what would you give to your child? A newborn. What would you put in there? What would you put in the first, after breastfeeding, the second year of life? Breastfeeding should be the first year, because I'll give a lecture on child care at some point. The immune system is not developed enough. Remember, eating is an immunological event. You are taking the outer world in, and the immune system is on guard to protect the body systems. And so the child's first year is crucial. Actually, the first 7 years, but the first year should be breastfed. Now, if you can't do that, I don't want to get into that now. There are other things you can do, but that's for sure. But when you introduce food to a child and provide those resources for that child, that's the same approach we should use for ourselves first, and teach our clients, teach our children. And so when we look at the pancreas itself, you will notice that, as I say, as it says here, the pancreas, digestive and endocrine system for all mammals, and is both an endocrine, producing several important hormones, insulin, glucagon, and there's the somatostatin, as well as an exocrine gland secreting pancreatic juices containing digestive enzymes that pass into the small intestine. And this is the one of this slide I wanted to show you, remind you of. You may know, you may remember it. But the pancreatic juices that are alkaline in nature, there's a reason for that. Now we say, well, we don't want to be too alkaline, but in this instance, this is the one exception to that rule. The acidity from the stomach is so great that it would damage as it got into the duodenum and the small intestine, it would damage. If that was not, all that acidity wasn't neutralized. And it is the pancreas that provides that neutralization through its alkaline secretions. Through its enzymes, it breaks down food, but these alkaline secretions, to normalize that chyme that is going to go into the small intestine, be broken down more, and then absorbed into the bloodstream. And it is the same duct, the common bile duct, that in cooperation with the liver and gallbladder, the liver biliary system, that works together. So, and bile is also very alkaline. So there you have this beautiful mechanism, as you understand it, that works to take in the outer world, break it down, and then break it down even more so that it eventually becomes living substance. So now this article, which I love, and I don't know if you ever even remember this, Reader's Digest back in the 60s, I believe, or 70s, put out a series called I Am Joe's Body, ironically, Joe's Body. And I gave you this article on the pancreas. It's very well done. I don't have them all. I wish I had the whole series, but I don't. But I want to put out, make you aware related to the pancreas, a couple of things. I'm not going to read this whole article. You can read it through. And basically what I'm saying to you now is in this article. But the pancreas is not. It looks like this organ is big, but oops, sorry. I don't know, there's something that I hit and I shouldn't. Have to be careful with that. We think that the pancreas is a large organ. It isn't. It's only 6 inches long, and it's fairly thin, and it's the size, as he has said, it's written here, is a large dog's tongue would be the best way to describe it. And so you can read through, and it only weighs 3 ounces. Now, please tell me, explain to me how you can have a million little islets of Langerhans and all of the secretions of the digestive juices in such a small organ. This is the marvel of, as I say, of the body. So, and you can read what I just explained to you, and you can have this, you can print this out for your clients. And the other part of this, I wanted to just review for a second here, relates to this. Another common problem is acute pancreatitis. Hold on. Causes of this inflammation are lesion, mumps, injury during surgery on an adjacent organ, arterial disease. You would never think of the pancreas related to arterial disease. Sustained use of alcohol. So all of these conditions in particular relate to the damage and the decline of the pancreas. So you could say, yeah, well, I have a type 1 diabetic. Why did that happen? Dr. Lee said it happens, one of the main causes of type 1 diabetes, which is in my lecture that you can listen to, type 1, type 2 diabetes, is parasites, usually starting at adolescence. But it could be parasites at any time. Someone travels to a foreign country, they come back and they develop type 2 diabetes. Why? Or type 1, which is even worse. Why? There's a factor. But these other things that happen to the body, this is why surgeries are so, we should try to avoid surgery at all costs. There are times when we need it, but rushing off to surgeries is not, there are too many factors with that. And other injuries, sports injuries, damaging car accidents, all of that set off this decline of pancreatic function. One of the most common causes traces back to rather poor plumbing. I share with the liver and the gallbladder a common exit duct into the duodenum, which I just showed you. And the bile from the liver can back up into my duct system, injuring or destroying it. Or a gallstone may block the exit duct. This is why we have the liver gallbladder flush, which is great. Everyone should do it once a year. But you should know, and your client should know, just through an ultrasound, whether you have big gallstones. They should not do the gallbladder flush. And this is the reason. If it gets caught in that duct, then you have to have surgery. Otherwise, you'll destroy not just your liver, but your pancreas. So, and we'll talk about tumors as well later on. And this is just the photo that goes with this article, similar to the one that I gave you here in color. And I really like this and the whole technology of writing that particular author uses. So what can we do for it? This is the chart that I've made up and developed over years. And as Dr. Lee said, every organ, gland, and tissue in the body must have the right for that field of energy, that resonance of that organ, and the physical part of that organ, the right vitamin, the right mineral, the like protein, or what we refer to as protomorphogen. And I have added in the herb and the lifestyle, the action step, which we'll talk to at the end. So for the pancreas, it's Cataplex B. There's nothing wrong with Cataplex G, but Cataplex B is the specific one for the pancreas. And I'll show you a couple of things with that. The mineral, of course, is chromium. Because if you have insulin sensitivity, even if you're pre-diabetic, type 2, without chromium, you cannot desensitize so that insulin is used more efficiently. You can't. That is a specific nutritional deficiency, as is B vitamin. Now, teachers would say, well, zinc, Joe, which I include in here. Of course. Zinc that mineral provides the protection for the beta cells, the endocrine cells in particular, prevents them from trauma, which I just went over, and through trauma and destruction. So zinc is as important. You could write that in your notes, but chromium is the primary because this relates to function. Remember that everything that we teach in standard process, we are not impressed with high potency anything. We are impressed with food concentrates that honor the function of that particular organ, gland, or tissue, that system. And of course, pancreatrophin. Once the protomorphogens, their primary function is to remove the burden of that organ. Pancreatrophin is there to remove the burden on the pancreas so that it can return to its balance. So, because when this organ begins to break down, if those necrotic proteins get into the blood, that creates that leads to an immune assault. The body interprets that as those necrotic proteins as an antigen, as it interprets the pancreatrophin as an antigen. This is the distraction for the immune system. So the immune system creates the antibody, gets rid of those dead proteins or necrotic proteins in the blood. Good. But then it goes and starts attacking where it came from, the primary organ. So this is really the key to the longevity. These feed this organ, bring back the balance. This prevents it from breaking down. And of course, gymnema that's been used, the herb gymnema, for 2,000 to 3,000 years for the pancreas. I have a good article for you on that. And of course, walking, which we'll talk about. So I'm not going to go into all of those, especially my type 1 and type 2. You can go onto my YouTube channel, and if you can't get in there, just press on this link. It will go there, and you can listen to my lecture, which is different from this one, related to type 1 and type 2 diabetes, and focuses mainly on glucagon and insulin, mainly on the endocrine part. Today, I want to really emphasize the exocrine part toward the end of this. So let me just open this and see. And again, this is just basic information. What I try to do also in these lectures is to give you the research that I go into and I look at, so that we understand, if we're going to apply nutrition, we have to understand the organ or gland or tissue and what we're working with. But I did want to read, I believe it was down here. Give me 1 second to find it here. Well, maybe I can't find it here. But this article in particular has to do with the basics of, so that you understand that function, especially, maybe this was it here. Yeah, this was it. The endocrine pancreas consists of the Isles of Langerhans. There are approximately was approximately 1 million islets that weigh about 1 gram, about 4/10 ounce in total, and are scattered throughout the pancreas. The cell, that's the other thing I wanted to let you know, which I already said, because I had read this article. They are scattered throughout. The cells that make up the islets arise from both endodermal and neuroendodermal precursor cells. So we could spend some time on this, but it's quite extraordinary that this ties in with, as I say, this emotional part of pancreatic function: thoughts, words, deeds. These are cells that are affected by neurological impulses. It's interesting. Approximately 75% of the cells in each islet are insulin-producing beta cells, which are clustered centrally in the islets. The remainder of the islets consist of, I'll let you read all of that. Yeah, that's mainly what, here is the other diagram that I thought was really cool, showing you the glucagon and then the insulin cells. So of each islet of Langerhans. Fascinating. And a picture's worth 1,000 words. And these are throughout. And I thought there was maybe another that showed this, but maybe not on this one. Okay. So there is that link. And the other has to do with the significance of how the role of enzymes that the pancreas produces, because these particular enzymes, lipase, amylase, protease, determine a lot of what happens with our food, and they go into the different amino acids in this article as well. So, and of course, if you want to donate, you can. They always trying to get you to donate. And then this is more on in my type 1, type 2, if you want to read about the glucagon and insulin resistance. So what is the primary vitamin, mineral, and protein? What is the primary vitamin? So Dr. Lee made it very clear that it was the B1, B4 side of the B complex. Now, I have talked ad nauseum related to the Cataplex B and how we have now changed that back to, this was Lee's original formulation. We have returned to what he originally put out, which used to be in a wafer. Now it's in what we call a caplet. It's the size of a capsule, but it's a tablet. And what did he do? He made this from factors from yeast, cereal germ, that's the defatted wheat germ, which is the primary source of B4 vitamin on Earth. There's your source. Beet juice and liver, that's all he had in. So we, and my colleague Mark Anderson, of course, as I've mentioned many times, was really had determined the determiner of getting this back to the original formula or close to it. So what did they put in here? There's your defatted wheat germ. There's your nutritional yeast. There's your liver, and there's your beet. So they did leave in the rice bran, which is great, because that's very high in all of the B vitamins, and carrot and sweet potato, which also have B vitamins, believe it or not. Think of carrot as vitamin A, but if you look it up, they're high in B vitamins. So the other Cataplex B is fine. It's fine. It's a fine product, but it does not have the concentration of these foods, especially these top four, these top three and the beetroot that Lee originally designed. Now, through the heart sound recorder, which I showed you in one of my lectures on arrhythmias, you can see the difference in the graph right away when you apply that B1, B4 factor. So, and in Lee's different writings about Cataplex B, I've given you like 3 different articles here that relate to what he talked about related to the pancreas and its relationship to carbohydrate. Cataplex B4, B core, necessary to maintenance of normal metabolic processes. That's a huge term. That's a huge way of expressing it. All normal metabolic processes is the B vitamin. That's why I feel that vitamin B is more deficient in the US, particularly than any other place in the world, because of all the synthetic foods that we eat. Carbohydrate metabolism, lactic acid excess, people with chronic sore muscles all the time. If you have sore muscles after exercise, obviously you're going to have some, especially if you over-exercise. But if you just normally walk and you're sore every day, you better get on the B complex. You better get on this Cataplex B core. Cellular respiration. Here's the Krebs cycle. A lot of other things, but I wanted to bring that out. Disturbed carbohydrate metabolism related to diabetes. Slow and labored respiration. When you sit with your loved ones, with your clients, and they are laboring in breathing, then you know that they are deficient in that particular range of the B vitamins. Now remember, in food, all of the B vitamins occur together, always. If you make a B supplement in the laboratory, not all the B vitamins are there, and you will diminish the reserves in your tissues and then become deficient. That's why Lee said, you know, synthetic B vitamins, especially B1, it doesn't have the partner, that B4 factor, the anti-paralysis factor. And these are people with severe arrhythmic patterns, or as I say, breathing difficulties. Was talking to a doctor before we started about people with profuse sweating. All of that, when you see this symptomatology, is the deficiency in that. If you give them a synthetic B, initially they're better. I can use this cheaper synthetic, even though Cataplex B core is very inexpensive. I can use this. Oh, doc, I don't need that. I get it in the health food store. I get it in the pharmacy. I get it in the grocery store. But eventually they get much worse. And that was Dr. Lee's word on that. Vitamin B is of vital importance in cooperation with vitamin C. Now, remember that I said this because I want to show you when I review pancreatrophin with you, I want to show you that when he formulated pancreatrophin, he put food sources of B vitamin and C in that formulation. It is maintaining normal health for the entire endocrine system, B and C. Some observers report atrophy of the organs of internal secretion. And Lee spoke about this so many times in his writing. If you don't have the basic nutrients, B and C especially, your endocrine glands are going to break down and you will not live long and you will not live well. You won't. In the case of pigeons, rendered polyneurotic, many nerve restrictions. While others report increase in the size and weight of the adrenals, thymus, pancreas, testes, ovaries, spleen, heart, liver, kidneys, stomach, thyroid, and brain. Pretty much the whole internal mechanisms of the body and the head. And why does it increase? Poor function. It's beginning to break down. And that's what this doctor and I were talking about. So funny, I'm reading this to you. This always happens to me. It's just what I was talking about. This client and their family, this profuse sweating, and they found out they have some genetic deficiency or imbalance, is a better word, where the heart is enlarged. B vitamin deficiency. Here again, he says, the degeneration of nerve tissues and paralysis of beriberi. I can't. This is the person that can't function during the day. They bump into things. They don't have good timing. They are clumsy. Are conditions of more deficiency of B and are not so great importance to us here in the US. Pellagra, however, is due to more than a vitamin G deficiency alone. The B deficiency becoming responsible, no doubt, for the spinal cord degeneration. This is why I wanted to read this to you. You can read the whole article. That precedes the skin lesions and causes it to be bilaterally symmetrical. Spinal cord degeneration. It's not just B12. You cannot have B12 unless it's in the whole complex of the B vitamin, only from food. Here's another pearl, which you can read all of these through. Probably the most widespread effect of the universal partial dietary deficiency of B is constipation. If you have constipation issues, there's another one I wanted to read. In your clients, chronic constipation, you could say, oh, well, more fiber, more water, on and on. But unless you get to the core of it, of that deficiency. In pregnancy, the endocrine hyperacidity requires an ample supply of B. without which goiter, lymphatic, tonsil enlargement, etc., tend to result. Children with tonsillitis, with lymphatic problems, with the mother had a B and C deficiency. So great articles. A year ago in these pages, attention was called to the fact that deficient of B vitamin result in such reactions as enlargement and undoubted malfunction of the list of organs: adrenal, thyroid, thymus, pancreas, gonad, spleen, and the rest. So I will let you, oh, was there something I wanted to read here? Yes. Why has this happened in our society? Here he said it. Here he says it. White flour and refined sugar lacking. Think about what I just read. What do people live on? Now, probably not you, hopefully not your family, but the majority of this country live on white flour and refined sugar. Lacking B vitamins and the minerals they once contained cannot be considered fit foods either for the adult or the child. Truer words never spoken, or were never spoken. Now, I'm not going to go into this, of course, because time is moving on, and I really want to get into that that exocrine part of my lecture today. But remember that, and I gave you two great sources to read through of the sources of chromium. And the main one is Cataplex GTF, Diaplex, and Immuplex. So here are three products that you probably, this is a multivitamin. We could have put Catalin in here too, but in higher amounts that are more clinically effective. Catalin is a great maintenance for sure multivitamin, but these are even have higher content. And of course the zinc, and you can read about that in relationship to the pancreas. So I already really went through pancreatrophin, but what I wanted to show you is the ingredients. So the ingredients in the pancreatrophin is bovine pancreas, the protomorphogen, that nuclear protein that acts as a deterrent for the attack of the immune assault, and the immune system destroying the primary, in this case, endocrine gland. Organic alfalfa, aerial parts. What does alfalfa have? A, vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K, vitamin F, juice powder, nutritional yeast. So he also put B vitamins, porcine duodenum. Did you know that, and Mark was teaching some of us the other day, and he brought out this point. Do you know that there never has been cancer of the duodenum? That part of the body, for some reason, cancer has never been able to invade and get into that part of the body. Isn't that interesting? Now, my thought went to, oh, well, if I take this, will that prevent cancer in other parts? Probably not. But certainly it helps the duodenum if you eat duodenum, of course. So isn't that interesting, though, that there is one part of the body that never gets cancer? Defatted wheat germ. So here's your vitamin B and your primarily, and again, along with the alfalfa, vitamin E. So he knew that the pancreatrophin is great, but we also have to give, as he said earlier on, vitamin B and vitamin C. Well, Joe, where's the vitamin C? Well, I haven't finished. Organic buckwheat, juice, powder, and organic buckwheat flour. Now, of all the endocrine products, there are only two in the standard process line. And you can have a challenge with the next time you see your sales rep. They should know this. And of course, we can do it in fun. but they should know which two of the endocrine, in the protomorphogen line are formulations. You could win some money, bet them $10. And that is pancreatrophin, and the other is ostrophin. All of the other protomorphogens only have the protomorphogen in content. The only two exceptions to that is pancreatrophin and ostrophin. Now, you could look through them all in the catalog and catch me. Maybe I missed one, but as far as I remember, but that's a great gee whiz conversation to have, especially if you have your standard process rep with you. So now what is the very paramount factor with the pancreas as far as the endocrine system is concerned? Pituitary hormones play an integral role in controlling glucose metabolism. There is your connection. Now, I'm not going to read this whole article, but it's important that you know that if you're going to help someone with their pancreas, whether endocrine or exocrine, you must have the primary corresponding endocrine gland that works in conjunction with it, and it's the pituitary. Now, if you read this through, the anterior and posterior hypocele hormones after glucose metabolism in health and disease, secondary diabetes may occur due hypersecretion of anterior pituitary hormones. So you see how this all ties in with the pancreas and with diabetes in particular. That's what this particular article focuses on. It's a little complicated, but hypopituitarism is, and people say, well, Joe, I did your program and you know, it didn't, or I've done other teachers' programs, it didn't work, because you have to be able to put it all together. And it's important that that's why I put in these articles for you. And I wanted to see if, what did he say? Sympathetic, post-thyroid. So you can see the pituitary plays such a part with thyroid, with liver, and so you can read that through as well. The other is this particular article on vitamins, endocrinology, and old age. And here is where Dr. Lee knew this 70 years ago. Pituitary hormones are known to maintain the activity and integrity of thyroid, parathyroid, supraadrenals, adrenal glands, gonads, and pancreas. For instance, it is probably the pituitary controls the endocrines in a double manner through the nervous system as described by Sajos, the normal fractile method. So you can read about this, how he correlated pituitary with not only these other endocrine glands, but the pituitary. Now, the other product that Dr. Lee specifically designed with this in mind is Paraplex, which has 25% pituitary, 25% thyroid, 25% adrenal, and 25% pancreatrophin. This is a great product for general endocrine function related to those that you feel, that your perception, that your observation, you know that they have blood sugar issues. They can't thrive. They're not thriving. They have issues maintaining that they're declining fast. This is your product for that. And now you would initially use the straight pancreatrophin, but you would want to use this with this type of individual, what I've been describing to you all through this hour. This is the product for the rest of their life. Now, usually through the symptom survey form, if you use that, you can tell whether it's primarily a gonadal issue or a pancreas issue, one or the other. So if obviously if it's gonadal, you would use simplex F or simplex M that has these three, and then overtrophin or the testosterone, male gonadal protomorphogen, orchic. Sorry, it took me a second there. Orchic extract PMG. But if not, if these are people that have energy problems throughout the day, especially in the afternoon, they fatigue from noon on, they fatigue. They're tired. They go for the coffee in the afternoon and at lunch, the stimulants. These are the people that need this. I have cleared more of this problem with this product than any other one product for sure. And of course, the final is the herb. And I want to read some of this because this is so great. Gymnema is the herb for diabetes. I think the creator left a signature on Gymnema that's like the equivalent of a 20-foot neon sign, because when you taste Gymnema liquid extract, it has a unique effect. It neutralizes your sweet taste buds, and it can last for up to 3 hours. That's why Gymnema means sugar destroyer. So it reduces, it anesthetizes your desire for sugar, because you can't taste it. It's not pleasing. You don't want it. It's a fantastic party trick. Get a bottle of Gymnema extract with a little dropper, go to a party, so you can do that. Gymnema has been traditionally used for diabetes for 3,000 years in Ayurvedic medicine. In India, the Hindi name Grumar, which translates to sugar destroyer, and it acts on sugar in many, many different ways. So Gymnema, oh yeah, this is the other thing I wanted to read. 3 tablets are specifically for diabetes, insulin dependent and non-insulin dependent. So what I recommend with this product is to take 1 per meal. Gymnema is going to take at least 3 to 6 months to work. So this is something that you have to be sure that you give it time. But the other interesting thing that Gymnema does, and I don't know, maybe they didn't say it in here. I thought that it did, that it helps to normalize those beta cells. And it also prevents, like zinc, the mineral zinc, this herb helps prevent the decline and destruction of those beta cells. This is so effective. Evidently, there's a high amount of diabetes in India. And that was probably from the English or the British influence in the early 1900s when they dominated India. And they brought their own hereditary bad habits, which is a lot of tea with sugar in it. And that, of course, has gotten adopted over decades and decades. The Indian government gives Gymnema out free of charge. as a preventative. So you can look that story up. Pretty interesting. So I wanted to run through just a couple, which I've already spoken to you about here. I want to get into these enzymes related to the exocrine part of the pancreas. And as you know, if you know anybody with pancreatitis, they have issues that are major. You can die from this condition, and it is a true sign that your pancreas has real issues, real concern, and severe breakdown and loss of function. So, of course, as in my book, I give you the lifestyle recommendations and then the products. So I'm going to get into the Panimmune in a minute. But you want to make sure that you're giving them the pancreatrophin if they have pancreatitis, and then work on their liver, take the burden off liver and digestion and kidney. So you can see that also consider. Now, this is a big protocol, but believe me, if you have pancreatitis, you should take most of these products, at least for 3 months till it clears, because it's going to inhibit greatly your ability to function in life. You're going to be really sick for a long time, and there's a lot of outcome from that. So as I say, the organ part of the pancreas primarily has 3 enzymes. And I'm not going to go into each one of these. This would be a 2-hour lecture if I did. Amylase breaks down carbohydrate. Lipase breaks down fat. Protease is what I want to focus on, breaks down proteins. So, and this article is great. And part of that protease pattern is trypsin and chymotrypsin. Tissue damage of all types, such as surgical or accidental injuries, fractures, and burns. Listen to the range here of where you need this particular range of enzymes. Stimulates a well-orchestrated physiological process of healing, which ultimately leads to structural and functional restoration of the damaged tissue. The tissue repair process can be broadly derived into 4 continuous and overlapping phases. I'm not going to read all of those. If the process is interrupted or halted during any stage, it leads to impaired healing and formation of a chronic wound. Chronic wounds are associated, now this wound can be external or it can be internal. Most of them are internal. Chronic wounds are associated with significant morbidity, mortality, poor quality of life. Therefore, prompt and effective management of acute tissue injury is necessary to prevent from progressing into a chronic wound. Proteolytic enzymes, lipase, protease, all produced by the exocrine part of the pancreas, trypsin and chymotrypsin, have been used to facilitate tissue repair since ancient times. Well, nobody ever told me that. Nobody ever told me that, or most of us. Proteolytic enzymes have been used. Trypsin, chymotrypsin is an oral proteolytic enzyme preparation, which has been in clinical use since the 1960s. Well, that's not ancient times, maybe for some of you, but I remember the 60s pretty well. Provides better resolution of inflammatory symptoms and promotes speedier recovery of accurate tissue injury and several of the other existing enzyme preparations. So, and then they review this. So, which I'm not going to go into. I wanted to read you that, and you can read that through of its significance. Now, trypsin and chymotrypsin is not in multizyme. The other amylase, protease, and lipase are in multizyme. So you can get that range. You can also get it in Zypan, which is part pepsin, part betaine hydrochloride, and the 3 pancreatic enzymes. They're also, which I did not put in here, they're also in lactans. Lactans has acidophilus, large intestine, bifidus for the small, and then the 3 enzymes for the ranges of breaking down carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. The other product, which many of you love and recommend, is Diaplex. So Diaplex has, as you can see, as I was saying about the pituitary and pancreatic relationship, it has the liver relationship, the kidney, and the Zypan with the enzymes in it, as well as hydrochloric acid and pepsin. This is a great general formula, but unless you're going to take a lot of this, this is a great overall digestive aid. It's a great prophylactic formula, or a formulation you can use all the time. But if you want to get into real repair, you're going to have to use the straight pancreatrophin for a while, and then go to the Paraplex after that, then get into a maintenance of something like this. Now, the other program that I put in here relates to pancreas parasites. And as I said earlier, Dr. Lee was very clear that adolescent diabetes, type 1 diabetes, was primarily from parasites that have entered the pancreas. That's why I put this protocol in my book. Now, he didn't talk about the onset of type 2. That's a little different, which I go into my type 1, type 2 diabetes lecture. But pancreas and the parasites, if you get someone, a child with onset diabetes, or someone that's older that has it, you've got to make sure, you have to rule out whether they have parasites, particularly in their pancreas. And again, these are always listed in order of importance. Now, I usually stay within the standard process and MediHerb list of products, but this particular product from Biotics has a substance called phycin, which is the greatest proteolytic enzyme on earth. It eats parasites. And standard process used to make this, put it in Zymex 2, which they no longer do for whatever reasons. I'm not completely sure. So this is where I recommend that you go outside of our line and go to Biotics, because you must have phycin. If you have pinworms, if you have a tapeworm, if you have parasites in your pancreas, you need phycin, the most powerful proteolytic enzyme on the planet. And of course, wormwood complex breaks down all parasites, particularly tapeworms. So that's why these two are the most important. Always on an empty stomach. If you're going to use a proteolytic enzyme of any kind, and you don't want it breaking down your food, you have to take it in between your meals, which is 2 hours after a meal or 1 hour before a meal. So now trypsin and chymotrypsin, there is a principle to this range of proteolytic enzymes that is crucial for not only pancreatic function, but many inflammatory conditions. And there are companies like Wobenzyme from Germany that has had trypsin and chymotrypsin for all kinds of inflammatory, not necessarily cancer, but all kinds of pain and inflammation throughout the body. And they've been around, Wobenzyme, geez, I think in the 70s or 60s, a long time. But the principle here is this. The most effective use of trypsin and chymotrypsin is based on the principle of molecular rotation by John Beard in his book, The Enzyme Treatment of Cancer and Its Scientific Basis, published in 1911. They have known how to help cancer since the early 1900s. He was rejected. He was rejected. Said it, no, we're not doing this. As many of Dr. Lee's principles and applications were rejected. Trypsin acts upon left-handed rotation, molecular rotation. Here is the energy factor that I began with. All living substances are moving. They're alive. They're electric. They're energetic. They have frequencies and they move. So molecular rotation is how one way they describe this. Left-handed is a cooked protein. So these would be the proteins in your gut after you eat a steak or chicken or fish. And living, non-cooked, right-handed proteins. Upon its release from the pancreas during a meal, it assists in digesting the left-handed proteins in the small intestine. Taking trypsin with a meal will act in the same fashion. Tumors, now, I didn't say cancer. Any tumor, any abnormal growth is a right-handed protein. Taking trypsin and chymotrypsin enzymes on an empty stomach, as I just said, will liquefy tumors and break them down. The enzyme malagin, malignant, thanks, which the tumor produces. Malignant stimulates tumor growth. So this has to be on an empty stomach. Now, I have had 2 cases in the last 6 months, beloved friends of mine, men that have taken male hormone, synthetic male hormone that both developed pituitary tumors. And one had to have surgery, and then they said it would keep growing back, but it has not come back at all. I just talked to him yesterday. Another doctor, just a few weeks out, began to lose his sight because of this pituitary tumor. So I put them on basically this program, that I reviewed with you. Excuse me 1 minute. I put them on pancreatrophin, Paraplex B, and I don't think I used the Chromium, and the panimmune enzymes, which is the source that I use for trypsin and chymotrypsin, that I'll show you shortly. And both the tumors reduced and have not returned. So have not grown back. Yes, returned. Now, this is just a few weeks down the road. Well, my other friend was a few months. That was over a year ago. So his is not returned. I talked to him yesterday. He was in Hawaii vacationing yesterday. He's fine. He's got other issues, but that did not return. So this principle And of course, it's the principle that I used for my cancer as well, which is, you can review all of that in one of my journey through cancer on my YouTube channel. The theory that malignant cancers are false placentas. So why do they use this word? Because a cancer cell is either the same or similar to a trophoblast cell, the placental cells, which increase replication. So anyway, hold that thought. Partial pregnancies was the first formulated by the Scottish embryonologist John Beard in 1902. Beard found that substances secreted by the pancreas would inhibit the growth of cancers before they developed, but are missing in the blood of cancer patients. Now, why does this tie in with a fetus? Because the fetus cells, those trophoblast cells, replicate so fast that if they kept replicating at the end of the pregnancy as fast as the beginning of the pregnancy, it would be a full-grown human. And John, and I gave you this article, Lynn put them in there, or I can send them to you. Those articles that explains all of this in greater depth. On day 56, this is fascinating how life works. On day 56, the fetus's pancreas puts out trypsin and chymotrypsin and slows down the growth of the fetus to a normal expression within 9 months. You know, actually, it should take, you probably have never heard this, but my daughter taught this to me yesterday. The normal human development life cycle in the uterus is actually 12 months. I never knew this till yesterday. I want to look it up and read about it. The reason over time, the development of humans, if we waited till, if the body waited till 12 months, the head would be too big. It couldn't get out of the through the pelvis. Interesting, huh? And so over time, humans developed the 9-month cycle. Fascinating. This is why we're not going to talk about children feeding them, but the first 3 months after a child is born should be respected as if it's still developing in the uterus. That's how important not giving the child food in the first 3 months, actually the first year. Interesting. But here he says, Beard found that substances, trypsin and chymotrypsin, secreted by the pancreas would inhibit the growth of cancer cells. This is the marvel of the pancreas. Before they develop, but are missing in the blood of cancer patients. So my body does not have enough trypsin and chymotrypsin. That's why I have to take that every day. That's why one of the main reasons my cancer has not returned since 2007. These substances, the digestive enzymes trypsin and the trypsin precursor chymotrypsin, reportedly cure 100%. That's a pretty big claim of fast-growing cancers when taken orally at an extreme high dose. The author has found evidence that it may be possible to achieve the same cancer digestive effect with lower enzyme dosages by enhancing trypsin, chymotrypsin activity in certain supplements. That's why I put in Multizyme and Zypan and Diaplex that has those in it. And here is the product that I use. You cannot order these online. You have to call them, and they screen you but here is the product that I used, that I still use to this. I take 6 of these every day. And they recommend on the bottle you take 5 3 times a day. If you have a tumor or cancer or a lot of inflammation in your body. Now, they're not cheap, they're expensive, but they save your life, or they all because of the goodness of how the pancreas functions. The answer is always within the body to heal the body, always. We just, if it's missing something, but people that tend to have these tumors that have growths, that have a lot of aches and pains, of course you can give them anti-inflammatories, you know, boswellia, turmeric, of course, but that isn't fixing the problem. That's relieving the symptoms. To fix the problem is they have a deficiency. People that get cancer do not either have any or enough of trypsin and chymotrypsin. They're not making it. And so this is why this whole lecture, especially today, of keeping your pancreas healthy, of not abusing it, of letting it be a blessing for your body is so important. Now, the action step, and again, I'm not going to read this article. I just wanted to show it to you here. If I can move this here. Oops. Why isn't, oh, this won't slide. Okay. That's okay. I'll just narrow it down here. Walking is, in my opinion, the exercise. Now, I came to Colorado. I had cancer when I came in 2006. I was sick and I resigned from standard process, came to Colorado, but every day when I was sick, I walked 4 miles a day. And it kept my lymphatic system moving, and it gave me the strength to keep going and inspiration. And that's why walking to me, and I figured out the other day, I think I was telling Lynn, that I have walked just modestly 3 miles a day, 300 days a year. So it's more than that, but I just narrowed it down. So that's 1,500 miles a year. So in the last 14 years, I've walked 21,000 miles. Yeah, pretty, I'm like, I can't believe I did that. So in this article, they say you start off very easily. Just walk 15 minutes a day, then move up to 30, then get into an hour a day. Your pace should be a 15 to 20-minute mile. That is not walking fast. That's a generous walk, but it's not walking fast. But not only do you balance your blood sugar doing that, but you really stimulate the internal organs of a secretion, especially if you walk in nature in the sunlight. You want to help us, and particularly strengthening adrenal, thyroid, and pancreas function. That's why the best way to balance your blood sugar, if you have high blood sugar, is to walk every day. That's the best way. And not only that, but to help lymphatic drainage. The lymphatic system doesn't have a drainage system other than breathing and exercise. Trampoline, jumping rope, walking, biking. So if you have anything going on with your lymphatic system or your blood sugar system, walking is the key. So I hope you enjoy this article. It's well done. They encourage you to stretch before you walk. all part of, you know, living naturally. And so, good. Well, we're just at an hour and a half. And so I'm going to stop the recording and then take any question you want. Hopefully it's about this area that we're talking
And
about.
Joseph, I
Yes.
have had requests for you to keep the recording on during, so I just let you.
Okay.
feel
No,
that-
no, I'll leave it on. Sure.
Yeah.
So either if they put a question in the chat box, Lynn, I could take those, or someone can unmute themselves.
Hey, Joseph, it's
Joseph, I have a
Dr. Sue
question
Massey.
Okay, I can wait after Dr. Sue.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you. Just real quick question. The guys with the pituitary tumors, you said it was pituitrophin PMG with cataplex B complex and
Yes.
pan-immune enzymes, those three?
Right. So it was pituitrophin,
Okay.
pancreatrophin separately, and the B vitamins and the Panimmune.
Pan-immune. Okay,
I
so I
believe
thought I did hear pancreatrophin. Why pancreatrophin with the pituitary tumors?
because the when you read that article on the pituitary, which I didn't have time to get into
That's okay.
today, when you read that article, the connection between the pituitary and the pancreas, it is crucial for the function of both of them. Pancreas can't function without pituitary. Pituitary can't function without the pancreas.
That's a really interesting point. Very interesting.
Yeah, the dance, what I call the dance or the interplay between these endocrine, very small substances, hormones, but the power and the influence. Think how small the pituitary is, the size of a pea.
Right.
You know, and yet its influence on gonadal digestion and the pancreas are, even though in the article they say it's not directly related, but indirectly. And really, you cannot regulate not only blood sugar, but growth factors without the relationship between the pituitary and the pancreas being in harmony, in unison, functioning normally together.
That's an excellent point. My husband was hospitalized with pancreatitis about 18 years ago. I didn't know anything about it at the time, you know, whatever. And they put you in the hospital on IV with no liquid by mouth, nothing for 5 days. They starve you. And then obviously you know, should get better and so forth. But I love the connection to the pituitrophin because he's another Lyme patient, which affects the pituitary tremendously. So I thought you said pancreatrophin. So that's amazing.
No, I don't think I said pituitrophin. I think you're right. So thanks for that correction.
Oh, that's fantastic, though, just to see that connection to that whole thing, because I see this type of patient all the time.
Right.
I never thought of putting pancreatrophin with pituitrophin. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and that's why I said Paraplex is a really, like, for your husband is a great example. I'm glad you spoke up. He should be on Paraplex or Diaplex that has pituitary and pancreatrophin rest of his life. No question.
But the one question with that is, I find when you do those combo products, is what I call them, they're not enough because you're only getting 25%
in the acute phase, but so Dr. Lee said the individual protomorphogens, he said you only need 1 to 3 a day. So if your husband, just to use this for an example, if he took Paraplex, right, pituitary, thyroid, adrenal, and pancreas, and he took 4 in the morning, 4 in the evening, he would get 2 a day of each one.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
See what I'm saying?
Okay. Yep. I've never used Paraplex.
Did I? Did I say
25 years.
Is it 2? Is that right? 2 a day? Let's see.
Yeah, but well, it'd be
1 and 1. Yeah.
well,
So
you're doing
4 would be 1 of each.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's 100% of each.
Yeah. So I know that, and in my book, I use higher dosages is exactly what you're saying, because when initially with pancreatitis, you have got to use 6 a day, maybe even 9 a day. Now, you may get a histamine response if you started that high dose, but you've got to work them up to that.
Okay.
Closed head injuries we've talked about at, so many times. You've got to get up to 9 or 8 or 9 neurotrophin a day. You've got to get that high. If your heart is damaged, I've kept elderly people, not me, but the supplements, but they had to take 3 cardiotrophin 3 times a day.
Oh, yeah,
And to sustain.
absolutely.
So you're right, but he's at this point where you've managed him for 18 years since he had it. Now you can just add in reassuring yourself and him that it doesn't come back. Pancreatitis
Absolutely.
is, I'll tell you, that some of the other symptoms that he has came out of that, just what I was saying in this lecture.
Absolutely. His father, his brother, his grandfather, and his uncle all died of pancreatic cancer
Yeah.
in their 50s, and he's going to be 65. So he's trying to just make it to Medicare.
Yeah. Well, he'll do fine, but he
Yeah.
also needs to be on the panimmune enzymes.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
no
No, I
question.
have those. I have those. I'm doing that for breast cancer.
And
So
and with
Yep.
the inflammatory factors with
Yep.
Lyme, panimmune would be great.
This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, welcome.
Joseph, can you go back to the Panammune slide while you're answering another question? People are wanting the number, the phone number for Health Best, right there. Perfect. Thank you.
Joseph, this is Dr. Tonya. I'd like you to, as you were mentioning parasites and you were mentioning some different things about blood sugar, I would like to give you some list of this woman clinically. You've seen her before on her heart graph. In 2 weeks, she is coming in to do it again, but I'm really confused and I need you to kind of hone me in on maybe a stool sample or maybe something. So she's in her 60s. Her history is osteoporosis and she had a cerebellar stroke about 5 months ago. Bilateral ankle edema. Her waistline, she kind of has that hormonal weight she can't lose. Cold hands, mainly from her carpals are fine, but her fingers, all digits, are cold. And when she came in before the NUCA correction, it was purpley red. That cleared, but she's very cold. She used to be very clammy. That's getting better. No tone in her hand. She's very soft spoken. You can barely hear her. Her whole body is just slow. Her heart is very slow. So we have her on FOS food. She has a history of alcoholism and cigarette smoking. And that's about it. So I just want you to guide me because
she has multiple organ breakdown, or weakness.
Yeah.
From breakdown. So obviously, whenever a person is very breathy, like you say, she's soft spoken, there's just a lot of breath. That's Cataplex B and cardiotrophin. So as you well know, you probably have her on that, and we probably put her on that from looking at her graph. Now, as far as the osteoporosis, so I'm trying to keep it to as few products as possible. Calcifood powder is not only a living bone substance, but it gives you all 22 amino acids, which I didn't even get into today. Unless you have all 22, you can't repair cells that are breaking down. You can't fortify them, and you can't make new cells. So you've got to get more protein, food level protein that is whole, not overcooked protein. Calcifood is the perfect product on this planet for that. It is a living 22 amino acid substance. So you can use you can use the powders, fine. Protofood is stronger, it's better. So there's the second thing. And then, of course, you've got to support her endocrine system. So with her, with what you said to me that I can remember about because there's a lot here, about the vascular breakdown. When you get vascular breakdown, that means not only are you deficient in vitamin C, but you're also deficient in again, those B vitamins and proteins. You're not getting the repair of the vasculature because her sugar is probably off, Tanya. Now, whether she shows it or not, what destroys those blood vessels, especially the tiny ones, hands and feet, is too much. Sugar is fire, and unless that fire is under control, the small blood vessels and tissues, that's why people lose their sight. They lose the circulation, and they have to cut their toes off. And so that's the other big piece of her. And probably, you said it, she had a stroke. So there's your Cyruta Plus for her in that case. So those are a few ideas. And now the main thing is we need to feed this woman high quality, low starch foods and no sugar. No grains, no starches, no fruits. Now, if she's not willing to do that, then you got to do the best you can. So, all right. But I would definitely give Paraplex would be Paraplex for that sugar control, which may not even be showing, in her blood work. It may not, but she's got it. If she's got that much vascular breakdown, she's there.
Okay.
Something is damaging that. Now, we know the vitamin deficiency, the mineral deficiency, but we also have to know what is breaking it down. It's probably a lot of sugar over the years.
And so what, like, exactly, when you're saying over the years because of her alcoholism and her history, if she's eating better now, but she has a history of all of that, is this the protocol that you just said, or is there something, if it's
no, those are the
history?
main products I would think about. Yes. And
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Joseph. This is Barbara from New York City.
Hey.
Hi. I have a lady who's 53 years old. She's on the autistic spectrum, but high functioning. She's a doctor, but a little bit odd emotionally.
Okay.
And she's now complaining of a lot of puffiness under her eyes. And she does have pretty noticeable bags under her eyes. She also 2 years ago had bladder cancer, which was successfully treated, removed. And I think she had a course of some kind of chemotherapy every few months for that, but that's over now.
Just hold on 1 second. So before we go on, everyone, listen to what she just said. Puffy under the eyes, and she has a renal issue. Okay. Yeah. So when you get puffiness under the eyes, some say it even looks like a kidney. So there, I just wanted to say, you can see if you look at the person, you can see what possibly is going on. Then you hear the rest of the story. Very interesting. Okay, go ahead.
So I just started her on AC carbamide. I was wondering what you thought about that for her.
Yes, so definitely you want to support her renal system. The best two products would be Renafood. You could give her, depends how many products she wants to take. So Renafood is Arginex and Renatrophin. That's Renafood. She could take them individually, or if she only wanted to take a few products, you just have to double the dose. And if you look at the Renafood tablet, it's bigger than the ordinary standard process tablet, like a protomorphogen tablet. So they're putting more in there. So I would give her at least 3 Renafood twice a day on an empty stomach. Remember, if she wanted to take three times a day, start her slow though. The first week, just give her 2 twice a day on an empty stomach, then go up to 3 and 3. If she wanted to go to 3, 3 and 3, you could. AC carbamide is excellent because with this breakdown, she has lost the ability to get fluid out of the cell. The osmotic and AC carbamide helps with that osmotic transfer so that fluid can get out of the cell into the bloodstream to be metabolized out through the kidneys. So AC carbamide, at least 3 twice a day. If she's had cancer, no question about it, the Panimmune. And then anybody that it has swelling and puffiness anywhere, you need to get a heart sound recorder run on her. Then we can see more about what's going on.
And
But
she has particular complaint too about her belly is swollen, like, and it's not all around, it's like just a little pouch in the front on the lower abdomen. It's pretty, she's only about 145 pounds, but and 5'5".
Well, how old is she?
53.
Yeah, well, that could be visceral fat, but more than likely it's fluid.
Yeah.
It could be fluid. So you'll know more. And all you have to do is give her the Rent-A-Food and the AC carbamide, have her call you in 2 weeks and just ask her, I'm just interested in that belly. If it's gone, then you know it was fluid. If not, then you know that it's that visceral fat, which is, she's not old. But she's had so much done to her.
Mhm.
And so that visceral fat, the danger of that doesn't sound like it's that much. But the danger of that, or not danger, but concern is you don't want more places to store estrogen, in her case, if you've had cancer. You want to get rid of the bad estrogen, not store it in the fat cells. So that's all things that need to be watched. And so what was her cancer in bladder?
Bladder cancer.
Yeah.
She's
So
a radiologist, and I wonder if she got exposed.
wow, now that's interesting. Yeah, they say that the radiologists are not exposed, but you wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Lynn has a practitioner here in Colorado that her brother had bladder cancer, and it's now gone naturally. And so using my protocol and some of these principles we discussed today, so I don't know if Lynn if this woman would be willing to talk to you about what she did for her brother. And I think, Lynn, has she helped others with bladder cancer? Am I
Yes,
correct?
she now has a following. I think a half a dozen people she's helped now.
So, I can give you advice. I did the initial protocol, but she has taken it. She's the one you should talk to. Certainly the guidance through my protocol that I used is great. And that's basically what they did. But you may want to talk to this woman because she's doing it. She's living this experience of healing people in that area, so maybe Lynn, you could connect with this practitioner.
I'll write to Lynn about it. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Joseph.
You're welcome.
Hello, Joseph.
Yes.
Hi. While you were talking about the chronic pancreatitis, my mother had it where she was hospitalized like every 2 months for it, and they said her bile duct was like almost closed. They'd have to open it, and they didn't want any of the enzymes to be secreted.
Right.
So she's on Creon now and been managing it. However, before then, she did have her gallbladder removed, and her blood sugar was at 400 years ago, but it's managed now. However, she does have the same issues that the other girls client had, as far as with like no circulation in the fingers, very cold. I have her on Colocal and Zypam, but she still has and the B. But she cannot do meat, water, or fat. She just gets full within like a couple sips. But she could do carbs all day, and her blood sugar is okay. And I've been talking to her about that, but
yeah. How old is your mother?
78.
Yeah, it's hard to get them to change. Well, I would, first of all, with her diet, I would get her walking. Here is where a person that age needs to move.
She walks a lot.
Good for her. So that's the first thing. Then I would I would review a paleo diet with her. Say she can, you can add in, I always let people add in eggs and cheese. good quality eggs and good quality cheese. I always add that in and review it with her and just see what, if she could live that lifestyle, Now, if red meat bothers her, maybe a little fish, And the other food that is great for these people is actually mushrooms. Mushrooms have a pretty high protein content, but they are so easy to digest, so beneficial. When I had cancer, I lived on mushrooms and fish. The only protein substance in my and the nuts that I had so there's that as far as her food and lifestyle. That's good. And then as far as protocols, do you have my book?
I do. Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention was that there's a lot of muscle wasting going on, and I started her on ProtoFood.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. And yeah, so the other thing with her is you could teach her to make shakes. And my shake is in the back of my book. And she could even have that twice a day, or you could make it up for her if you live close by and just drop it off. And then I would, you said she's had, so I would look at, see, like Diaplex might be a good product for her at this point.
Okay.
Because she's had blood sugar issues. It's under control now. And what was the other thing? Oh, no. What else did you say she had?
Her gallbladder is removed.
Oh, yes, that's what I wanted to say. So you've got to get her on Colacol.
She's been on that for a while.
Okay, so that lack of desire for meat may go away on Colacol. I've had that happen with clients.
She's been on Colacol for like 7 years.
Oh, okay. So if that's the case and she still doesn't have that desire for meat, ProtoFood is excellent. And there could be something else with her liver. And so again, Diaplex would have beta food in it. It has beta col in it. So that may be the key product, not to add a lot to what you're already doing. So what if you were to say one thing to me that you really want to help your mother with, what would that one thing be? Based on what we've talked about and what you've done.
I guess I'm concerned about the muscle wasting. She eats tons of carbs, and we've talked about it, and it seems like the only thing she can eat is carbs without having any side effects.
So I would definitely consider cardiotrophin or Cardio Plus with her, which would have cardiotrophin, but cardiotrophin to begin with. Have you run a heart sound recording on her?
No, I need to find somebody that can.
Yeah, so that would be good, and send that to us.
Okay.
Then we can see a lot more. And then those protein shakes are going to be really important for her. So
Where do you live?
and then make sure with muscle wasting you get B vitamin as well, because she's a big carb eater, but she's not utilizing the carbohydrates. Because if you're utilizing carbohydrates properly, that gives muscle the energy. That's the fuel for the muscle. She's not getting that because she's not utilizing the carbs, the glucose in her muscles. She's not utilizing it. So that's where I would start. But protein, I think you're on the right track with the protein. Yeah.
Thank you.
Joseph?
Yes.
Concerning what you just said and the person who was talking about the fluid retention, my understanding is that iodine makes more mitochondria in the cells. And when you have too few mitochondria, it's like you're running 2 miles a gallon versus 32 miles a gallon. And so you don't burn carbohydrate efficiently, and you end up with a byproduct called mucin that builds up, and and causes all this thick under the chin and all this puffiness. And when people get sufficient iodine, that after about 6 months goes down. And so I was going to say, I wonder if both of those might want prolamine iodine.
Well, you could, yes. What I was thinking in regards to that has iodine in it is Dr. Lee talked about muscle wasting and vitamin F. So if you gave her Cataplex F tablets, just to keep this without adding a bunch of products in, gave her F tablets, she would get the iodine that you're talking about. She probably doesn't need that much. I don't know, where does your mother live? What state?
Oh, she lives in Illinois.
Oh, so
Like
yeah.
Chicago area.
Yeah, so she's in the goiter belt. So that iodine suggestion, I think, is valid. But vitamin F, especially the super EFF, Dr. Lee said was specific for failure to thrive, muscle wasting. Now that I think it through a little bit more. So having said all of this, to simplify it, I would give her Cataplex F tablets, about 6 a day would be good, and see if that helps as well. The other is, does she work with any kind of a therapist as far as helping her to do some weight-bearing exercises?
No, she's just been okay. So she's just been diagnosed with the osteoporosis, the weight bearing. She's pretty active in the house and doing like the heavier stuff. And her doctor told her just walk, and
But she might need to get some weights, little, half pound weights, and just anyway, you can help her with that. The other thing, the final thing with the osteoporosis, when you do that shake or teach her how to make a shake, add in the calcifood powder, more protein.
I've put her on that too.
Good. Okay. I think you're on the right track. She probably just needs time. Some more.
Yeah, I'll be interested in the heart sound recorder, because I'm like, you should be getting better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as I always say, you wouldn't know how she would be if she didn't take all of this. She could probably be a lot worse. So I think you've helped her a lot, but you have to remember that when you get down that road at 78 years old of degeneration, that's that one article Dr. Lee talked about. If you've been depleted in B vitamin and vitamin C for years and years and years, it takes time. And maybe you don't come back as fully as you want to, but enough that it gives you better quality of life for a longer period of time.
She's been a vitamin taker with standard process a long time.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, she's right in standard process
not so
territory.
good.
Yeah. It's probably more the diet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Joseph?
Yes.
Yes, that prior patient with the pouch under the belly button, according to body shape, that's an ovary issue, the estrogen dominant. She has to decrease
see, there's that, and that ties in with her. Thank you, Dr. Mendoza. That ties in with her high estrogen with the cancer then. Yeah.
Yes. She has to decrease, the hormone-rich foods. Yes.
Yes. The other one that's very good that I didn't mention in that case, that raises the good estrogen and lowers the bad estrogen, is Cruciferous Complete. So that is also, that's in my breast cancer protocol, I believe. But that might be one that you could think about to manage. You've got to have, women have to have estrogen. That's the hormone of beauty. It's the hormone of energy for women. So we don't want to lower her estrogen so much that she starts to not have that quality of life. So, I mean, she's only 53 years old. So, but she's had a lot of medical treatment, chemicals and surgery, I'm sure. So Cruciferous Complete is probably an ideal product for her. And there is a study you can get on standardprocess.com where they did a study on that, and it lowered bad estrogens up to 500%. It was remarkable. 150 to 500% lowered those bad estrogens. It wasn't a big study, but it was significant enough. So,
Joe.
yes, sure. Yes.
Hi, it's Constance. Many of these patients who we're treating who are post-cancer patients, whether surgery or chemo, whatever, how do we do cancer surveillance? Are there some tests we could look at to see how they're getting along with, this pushing this away as a survivor?
Well, often their oncologist is going to see them once a year or twice a year, and they can look at their inflammatory markers related to cancer through blood work. Sometimes they'll do a CAT scan or a PET scan. It just depends on where the cancer is. But usually, I know that I refuse PET scans.
Yeah,
they wanted to do one every 2 years, and
that's
I
what's happening now. Yeah.
I did one more, and then they wanted to go 2013 and 2015, and I said no. But they were managing me, which I have been in since 2013, through blood work. So that's usually how you can tell. Of course, symptomatology for sure is a good way to tell with cancer.
I mean, this particular patient is feeling really terrific, but then the doctor said, oh, no, we have to do a CAT scan or an MRI. This is a head and neck cancer. So this is, she's 4 years out.
Yeah, well, that's such an individual choice.
Yeah.
I would question them that why can't you do this through blood work? They should be able to tell through C-reactive protein and other blood markers if there's inflammation in the body. And then they have other blood work they did on me that had markers, growth factors markers. So
Okay.
I'm not an expert in that range of blood work, but I know that they should be able to compare her when they felt she was in remission or cured, her blood work then and how her blood work now, whether she's sustaining that.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Oh, this is Rhonda.
Hi,
Can you hear
Rhonda.
me?
Yes,
Hi.
very well.
Oh, good. My first time asking a question. Just had a question about gout. And is there a possibility, I just got diagnosed with an episode with my hand, that it's actually a blood sugar handling issue in the long run?
Indirectly, so high uric acid is primarily a liver issue.
Okay.
However, tied in with that, type 2 diabetes is also a liver issue. And so, yes, so gout is the disease of the royalty, as they say. So very rich food, highly processed foods, and too much food. So the main products, though, are going to be Arginex and Cyruta Plus. Believe it or not, the green buckwheat leaf that is in such a high concentration in Cyruta Plus neutralizes uric acid. There is also a substance in okra pepsin, and I can't remember what it is, but it also neutralizes uric acid. So if you have my book, you can look at the gout program. But the main thing is to, I know because it must be the season for gout, because my brother called me yesterday. He has managed his gout on these things that we're talking about for a couple years now, but he's having a flare up. So he knows now he's got to shut it down, as I say. He's got to get rid of the rich food, very light protein, and mainly vegetables. So, you know, as I say to my brother, prayer and fasting with gout. If you take it easy and shut it down, the body can catch up. But the fact that the body is taking this uric acid and sticking it in joints, it's not metabolizing that uric acid. I mean, not uric. Did I say right? Uric? Yeah. Yeah. And so you definitely want to really support kidney. I mean, and here again, we talked about AC carbamide is also very good for getting material out of the body, you know, getting excess protein and other chemicals out, and Arginex. But Arginex is your number one. That's going to be the one that's going to move stuff out, kidney clearance.
Yeah, because I don't eat a standard American diet. It's mostly paleo. I just added in some cream of buckwheat, cereal.
Well, the thing about paleo and gout is paleo's is a higher protein diet. Remember that.
Yeah.
So that may be your, you know, that may be your Waterloo, that which, you know, causes you to have problems.
It was pistachios that actually triggered this, believe it or not. Yeah. I'd eaten a bunch of pistachios and I was doing a little research. They're high in, I'm going to mispronounce it, salicitates, you know, like in aspirin.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on a whole month of baby aspirin after hip replacement surgery. So,
well, see, now you're telling us the story of the cascade of why it happened. See, so the body always tells you this is too much. It will tell you, and why is it too much? Oh, because of, in your case, you know, what you had to do with the hip replacement. So, but you can get that balance back. And the other thing, of course, with gout is, unless it's too painful, is moving. You've got, the individual with gout has got to move their blood. They've got to get that blood flow better through the liver. And the product for that, by the way, is Antranex. That dilates the portal vein. So.
Well, I also have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, but it's actually,
well, see, you're telling us the rest of the story.
And it's not due to poor diet. It's due to a genetic choline deficiency, which is why having choline or the soy lecithin.
Soybean, that's all great.
Yeah. So, and I've been doing that, but I just got your book a few weeks ago, and I have a few protocols in there that I'm going to be all putting together for myself and putting myself on everything. And I think I have everything we've mentioned except for the okra pepsin.
Yep, you can try. You're very good. Yeah, I think you'll clear this out. I think this is a, you know, downstream remnant side effect of, you know, surgery and your body having to deal with that and recovery from that. So,
yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, everyone, I think we've gone 2 hours. And so wonderful to be with you. I will be with you next Tuesday, March 23rd. At 8 a.m. Mountain Time, teaching the heart sound recorder. So we've talked about getting some graphs run for some of your relatives and your clients. Let's see these graphs so we can look at the story a little bit more. So thank you all for being on today, and my blessing.
Thank you, Joseph.
To you all as always.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.